please do not have audible discussions with members of the audience during the question period. If time permits, each candidate will move to separate areas to allow attendees an opportunity to mingle and meet candidates informally. If you have a question that is going to involve back and forth questions, what we're asking you to do is provide the candidate with your name and phone number so that you can have the conversation on the phone or meet somewhere for additional information. In order to provide a safe and civil environment at this event for all attendees will behave in a respectful manner. All statements must be made in a cordial tone. Only one person can speak at a time with no interruptions. There should be no private comments while the candidates are speaking. There will be no profanity, yelling, or outbursts. If the code of conduct is not followed, the attendee will be given one warning, and the next infraction will cause the person to be removed. At this point, thank you very much, and I'm going to turn this over to Hwy Superintendent, the Town of Marion Republican Committee Chairman, so that he may introduce your Republican candidates.
I am proud to introduce the following candidates: Mike Spanky Kramer for Town Supervisor, Heidi Levan for Town Clerk, Sam Bonifay for Town Judge, Mary Johnson for Town Board, Julie Herman for Town Board.
So, we will begin with Mike Kramer, Republican candidate for Supervisor. Mr. Kramer?
Introduce myself?
Sorry.
Good evening or late afternoon, however you understand. I'm Mike Kramer. I live in Marion, grew up in Marion. Several generations. I know some like it, some don't, but I enjoy Marion as a whole. I currently sit on the town board on my 4th year of my first term of the town board. And I'd like to take on the role of supervisor. Everybody's smiling diligently. My nickname is Spanky. I was born with that pretty much as a young child. And everybody in town, most everybody, that's how they know me by is Spanky. Most people don't know my real name is Mike. Julie Herman?
Hi, I'm Julie Herman. I also have lived here my whole life. I wouldn't have it any other way. I am on my 4th year of my first town board term. I have learned a lot, I will tell you that, good, bad, or indifferent. And I'm looking forward to another 4 years with your support. If you have anything you'd like to ask, just let me know, and I do thank you all for coming out this evening.
I am Heidi Levan. I'm the town clerk in Marion. It's my honor to be your town clerk. This is my 2nd term of office. This is my 3rd term. I appreciate your questions, and I truly appreciate you all coming out. So if you have any questions or concerns, I'd like to hear them. Thanks. Hi everyone. My name is Mary Johnson. This is my first time running for town board. I've only been in Marion for 9 years. I love it though. Made this community our home. So I'm an active volunteer with the recreation programs. I volunteer on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board, which I've grown to love, and I've networked with so many wonderful people within this community that it's so great. And one of my motivations for running for town was, hey, let's keep this positive train going. Let's build this, on this foundation. Let's make it much more positive, and let's keep rolling with this. Thank you so much for everyone coming out tonight, and go Bills.
I'm Sam Bonifay. I was not born, but I've been here since 1972. I practiced law here for 45 years until I thankfully retired from that. I have been town judge justice here. This is my 36th year, and I'm running for my 10th term. And I would be grateful if you would sustain me in that position. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about the town court, the workings of the town court. But I can't answer any questions specifically about any cases or laws. But anything else you want to ask me? I'd say go Browns, but just saying.
missed it, but with Judge Bonifay, you also cannot offer an opinion.
Right.
Okay, so anything that is, what do you think of the SAFE Act by judicial ethics, he is not allowed to offer an opinion. So since the candidates have introduced themselves, the floor is now open to questions for candidate Kramer for supervisor. Questions?
I have a question, but I don't know who to address it to.
Okay, ma'am, could you tell me your name, please?
Yep, my name is Ruthie Veronica. I've been here in Marion for 42 years. I just have a question about what steps are being taken to make sure that our town money is being used responsibly, and how can a resident like myself see those results?
Yeah, so that's a great question. First and foremost, thank you for that. I think the town board, I can speak for my current term. We have the budget process, right? We also have the expenditures. If you go, it's very hard, it's not hard to find, but if you don't have access to the computer system, I also look at the historical data for the town of Marion based on the Office of State Controller financial reports. And if you look at Marion, you take the last 5 years or 8 or 10 years, which you can get, and you kind of look at to see how it's going. I think we don't overpay our employees. We don't overspend in resources. Unfortunately, the cost of goods and the cost of things are what they are. A large portion of our budget is labor, which I work in private industry over the years, and the largest portion of those budgets were labor on top of it. So the information is available if you stop at the town hall. Somebody should be able to help you there, or call one of the board members, or I believe if Heidi has time, she can actually show you the budget, or we can set up a meeting with our account clerk, and you can also see that.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting
It's
a
available.
meeting.
It's
I was
public
just thinking,
information.
how do you
from a-
find it?
From a 5,000 foot view, I like to look at the data because every year it gets submitted to the state, and it's easier to pull down, and you can look at it and you can see
Yep,
the ebbs
I'm a
and
numbers
flows of
girl.
money. You know, for example, 4 years ago there was an influx of cash from the ARPA funds, the American Rescue Plan, right? So, and then you can see the deductions for doing park improvements and stuff like that. That you know, you can almost watch it and then attribute it to the billings and stuff like that.
Okay,
But feel
thank
free
you.
to stop down at the town hall.
Oh, thank you.
Anything else want to add to that?
No, I think you did a great job. I just, one thing you can do is just look around. The ARPA funds that were used here at the town park were used for new playground equipment. You know, we had the same playground equipment for 40 years. And we were able to use those funds to get some new playground equipment and do some great things up here where all of us tend to spend a lot of time, especially when we have our young families and you know, different programs that we offer.
Is there another question for supervisor candidate Kramer? Sir?
Yes, ma'am, I have a question. My name is Augustine Gonzalez. I've only been here for 13 years. I'm a transplant from Buffalo, but I do love it here. This is a fantastic community. Mr. Kramer, I guess my question to you would be, what's your priority? Can you tell us what's going to be your priority as being the town supervisor? Is there anything that you are planning to take on that to you is very important to you, to your heart?
Yeah, great question as well. I believe in community. I want to help continue to improve the community. This past year, with the leadership of Councilwoman Taber, started the Park and Rec Advisory Board. If we look back at the historical comprehensive plan, recreation was, in the survey, was one of the top priorities for all age categories, from youth to seniors. And the other thing that, you know, I want to enhance that program and keep it going. We've had the last couple of years a couple successful summer day camps. There was probably a 3 or 4 year going before that, so we'd like to keep that going as well. Of course, everybody's concerned with taxes, try to maintain that. The unfortunate part, 2026, we'll be doing a reevaluation. That might affect a lot of, you know, homeowners, landowners, but it's also part of doing business. And, you know, just keep the community together, keep building on what we have, be mindful of the spend. You know, plan our plan, work our plan. You know, work with the highway department team to make sure that we still have the resources and the equipment to keep moving forward. And, you know, what is the breaking point to order a new truck or do this or do that.
Thank you.
Next question, sir?
Yes, I'm curious if you're going to be reducing your hours or quitting your full-time job to...
That's a great question. I balanced that with my family and my friends for many months. I'm going to do both for a while, especially because this term is only, Depends who you talk to, is a 1-year term, and if it's not, then I'll do the 2-year term, but sometime in the next year or two, I hope to only do the supervisor's job full-time. However, experience has taught me and showed me that the supervisor's job has been done with somebody having also gainful employment outside of the town. If I work from home as a rule, I do a little bit of traveling now and then. I'll work from the town hall to do both jobs. I have no problem either. I might be the first person in the office, even though the office hours are 9 a.m. I might be there at 6 o'clock starting my day, doing my other job until the town hall opens. And I'm available nights, weekends, and holidays. I do it now. I answer the phone whenever it rings.
How could you also explain why you say it might be a 1-year term?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, right now, the New York State Legislature passed that local village and town elections will be moved into the even years to run with either governor or president. We have taken it to appeal. We won in Supreme, it is in appeals now. They've made the arguments this past week. We are expecting to hear a ruling. What he means, but if the appeals wins, what it's going to be is any elected official that is not a constitutional office in the state of New York, they're going to have to run again next year. So if this violation of home rule and blatant power grab goes through, I think we have figured out that almost every supervisor in Wayne County has to run again next year, because anybody elected this year will have to run again next year, and it goes through a 2, a 1, 3, and 4-year cycle. This whole reorganization actually will end up through to, I believe, the 2030 cycle. So that's why he said possibly 1 year, 2, just so that you know, from what we have heard from state committee, if we are not successful in the Court of Appeals, we will be taking this to a federal level. And just so you know, the lawsuit started, I think, with downstate on the island. I received a phone call from the chairman of the Bronx and presented it last year to the Board of Supervisors. Tony Burno was chairman. The Wayne County Board of Supervisors filed an amicus brief with many of the other counties in the state. So Wayne County is in the fight for home rule and local elections. So hopefully that answered your question and a little more of what's going on.
Even more than I needed.
I'm over it for 5 more days. Any other questions for Supervisor Candidate Kramer? Ma'am.
Marjorie, I'd like to ask Mike this question. So you and the board oversee the expenditures, so you know exactly what's going on, or does the supervisor just have a say?
The board has access to everything. The board sees everything.
Okay, so you approve something that's going to be paid as a board?
Yeah.
Okay. That's it.
Hi, current Supervisor Summer Johnson here. To kind of piggyback off Joe's comment, my questions being, it is doable full-time to work and to hold this office. It is the hours, make it what you want it. My concern is the commitment to the county aspect of this role, as you do sit on the Board of Supervisors at the county. And those meetings are once a month at 9 a.m. You're also assigned to committees that meet during the day, in the mornings, during the week. And, those are pivotal to passing through expenditures, passing through resolutions that departments are formed and how they're formed. And we currently have 2 supervisors on the board of 15 right now who work full-time, and it's not really working out for them. So my question is, how are you going to balance working full-time, working at the town, and the county commitments that, to me, are pivotal in running the county?
That's a great question. I think I can do it. I follow the county budget, the county committees regularly. I look at their agendas, I look at their minutes to try to keep up to date and up to speed. And again, prior experience has told me that the supervisor's job in the town of Marion was held by people that worked full-time and also were the supervisor. There were some that were supervisor full-time, I have no problem. I work long days as it is. I have no problem. I have no doubt that I can carry it out.
I know there's no follow-up questions, but I did just want to let everybody know that when we're saying past supervisors and their experience, over 30 years, there's only been two supervisors that held the position, Miss Monica and Miss Jody, with one in between, which was a 1-year term. No, I'm saying one term. He did 1 term. So with that being said, did Monica and Jody work also full time?
No, but I know Dwayne Fisher, Nick, I forget his last name, Denny,
Okay.
did it without fail. So I had full confidence that I could do it. I have no issue with it.
Okay. Any further questions for Supervisor Candidate Kramer?
I have one more. How will this party make sure that all residents in Marion are heard and have a voice in decisions and not just whether they're a political supporter or not?
I think I understood the question. You want to know how everybody gets heard? No matter
Well,
what party
heard,
they're on?
how does everybody have a voice in the decisions in the town, not just a political supporter?
You come to town board meetings, you can call any of the board members. I fielded, not to have parties involved, but I fielded over the last 4 years I've been on the board, questions from any residents. Out of the blue, somebody lived on Van Hall Street, somebody lived out on Skinner Road. They had issues and wanted to be dealt with, and I pick up the phone and call them back. And if it's something that, just a question I can answer, fine. If not, I'll refer them to the board or the town hall to go to the, if it's a permit process, the code enforcement. If it's a payment issue or something, maybe the clerk's office. Every issue's different, but just calling the town hall, in my opinion, would be the first step. I've never not gone to the town hall, even before being on the town board, and had a question answered or got guided in the right direction, from issues with the highway department to, how do I pay my dog fee for having a dog? Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Any,
I have
ma'am?
one more question. Recently, a report was done that talked about the different policies and procedures and so on that were done with the town. And I can't think of what it was called, but it was like an audit thing or something that was done.
Risk assessment.
The risk assessment, that's what it was. And I was just wondering if you were going to make some of that a priority to evaluate that a little further and possibly make some changes that were suggested in that.
Yeah, I read the report. I think all the board has read the report, and so the community members, the preliminary report, and then the final report. I've got a whole set of notes. The board as a whole hasn't discussed any plan of action yet, but I plan on doing so. I know there was a lot of boilerplate language in it. We're a small community. We have, we'd like to have 5 set of eyes on something. We only have 2 or 3. There's some things in there that I assume as a person, as a board member, we're getting done. So are the questions I have for the rest of the board. Where the shortfalls are, what we can do to protect ourselves. And with that, I also went to the state Office of Controller website. They have the risk assessment for all the towns, right? They have a financial wellness, I forget the proper term, and that'll tell you, there's several charts and diagrams of, where the communities are in their spending, their debt load, their debt services, and they have different levels, like, red, green, yellow, for example,
That was just emailed today.
of a risk. Marion's way down low. I forget the number, escapes me. But that information is available, or if somebody wants, I'd be happy to share it with them, to kind of give me another look at, from an outsider, where does Marion sit compared to others, why we're not other towns, we are Marion, and that's what I need to be focused on. But Marion as a whole, I think is in a good financial position from a risk assessment. Do we have to make changes? Yeah, we're improving. We should always continue to improve. If there's a better mousetrap, use it.
Okay. Any other questions for Supervisor Candidate Kramer before we move on? Any more questions? Any more questions? Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate it. And Mike will be able to answer any questions after this is done. At this point, we have Council Candidate Julie Herman. Question for Ms. Herman. Question for Councilwoman Herman. Questions. Oh, come on, somebody ask her a
To
question.
piggyback on Kim's question about the report that came out, I just want to add that one area that was very concerning was backup for a certain role. We have begun to train in that backup situation, so we are taking steps. There are things being done. Just that you don't see them every day doesn't mean they're not a priority. So I just wanted to piggyback on that a little bit. Anybody?
Ma'am?
How are you going to ensure that the decisions reflect the needs of all the residents, not just the most vocal groups?
Well, I will tell you, I'm not a real political party stickler. So your question previously about political party, I'm willing to talk to everybody and anybody. I have no problem with,
No, I'm not
with
really.
having conversations with anybody. And I'm sorry, making sure that everybody is heard and everybody is a part of this. Again, I champion for everybody. I'm here for everybody, not just for certain individuals.
Just so I'm clear, I'm not talking just about political parties.
Right.
I'm talking about everybody,
Yep.
you know, having a voice and being part of the town decisions. I never really looked at it before.
Right. I mean, obviously there is coming to a meeting. We do, in fact, I know the minutes for this next meeting coming Monday night have already been posted on our website. So you can see what we're discussing. If there is anything you would like to add input to, or any resident would like to add input to, our email addresses, our phone numbers are there. I highly encourage coming to a meeting. Currently, there are rules and regulations as to what can be said and when it can be said, but everybody gets 3 minutes to talk. And we do take, I personally like when we can get some feedback from the people at the meeting as to what their thoughts are, because we all come from different backgrounds and have different histories. And I think it's important to take everybody's strengths into consideration. I work in a service industry, so I'm very people oriented and how that works. Other people are more analytical, other people have different strengths. So I enjoy hearing what other people have to offer.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any further? Sir?
Hi. Julie, in your introduction, we know each other personally. You went 4 years ago, you started. You said, hey, I learned a lot when I came into this, and I'm just curious, could you just give us a couple of examples of, you learned a lot of how town government works? And maybe a couple of examples of things that, hey, I was able to do something about it, you know?
Yeah, one of the things I found very interesting was how things get repaired and fixed in a town. Coming from private industry, coming from corporate, if a window breaks, we just fix the window. You don't think twice about it. The window's broken, we just fix it. I didn't realize that you, as a government entity, that you had to go out and get 3 bids. And you had to be specific with those 3 bids. You had to go with the least amount of the bid. That whole process takes 2 to 3 weeks. And then you've got to get on their schedule to get that done. So as a taxpayer, I was always like, why in the world is it taking forever to fix that? Well, now I know that it's because it is such a process for a municipality to try to get really a lot of things accomplished. And communication is big. You know, we all do something different, and to communicate, we use email. We call each other on the phone, we talk to each other. You know, there's areas where a resident will come to me and will ask me about an area I'm not familiar with. I'm actually working with the drainage committee. Prior to being put on the drainage committee line and helping to head up that area, all I knew about drainage is water went downhill. I didn't realize how many specific DEC protected areas Marion has and what can be done and what cannot be done. So that has been a huge learning experience for me in understanding, you know, again, how we get those things taken care of. So I hope that answers your question.
Who gave that to you?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, we'll let you speak one more.
What do you see as the top priorities for Marion in the next 5 years, and how are you and the board preparing for them?
Well, I would love to say bringing in new businesses to our town. That is a really tough one. We try and we reach out and we do a lot of, trying to do a lot of networking, but that has not panned out. So I guess my thought is, and what I've been trying to do recently, is collaborating with the current businesses, trying to get them and our organizations working together. I know the Marion Historic Association has weekend hours. They've actually teamed with different businesses like Lollipops and Polka Dots to get coupons. You stop at the museum, you stop at Lollipops. Those types of collaborations, I think, is what we really need to focus on moving forward to help grow our little town, but also the people. Our Parks and Rec programs, I would love to see us get a Parks and Rec director at some point here, where we have somebody focused on those items that is their sole purpose for us. I think that would be really important. And of course, we only have so much in resources as far as financial and volunteer resources as our people. One of the things I do, it's a double-edged sword. When you go to different meetings in a week, like I'll have three meetings in a week, and I'll go and I'll see the same people at each meeting, because our resources for our people are limited as to who has the time to be able to come out and champion these programs like the Marion Events Organization, the Marion Historic Association, all of our different things that try to bring people to our town to spend their money. I hope that answers it.
Thank you. You're going to be the last question for
Okay.
me?
Me?
I
wasn't sure. Yeah, I do have one question.
Don't tell me this time.
I do have one question. So there's been a lot of issues with people not feeling that there's been transparency with the board, and a lot of arguments about whether or not to live stream, record meetings, and so on and so forth. And I'm just wondering how much of a priority the board is going to continue to put into trying to make that happen, even if you can't live stream, to at least record meetings so that others can see them when they can. Because if I could see it even live streaming, I would do that. But sometimes I'm just not available. Is that something that we can do?
Excuse me for taking over this question. Since that is such a broad-based question for the entire board, from the supervisors to the core council members to the town clerk, I am respectfully asking you to maybe send an email to all of the candidates with that question, so that that is a board question, not an individual candidate question. But it's a
It's been put
question
up to
that
resolution
should be followed
twice.
through privately. At this point, I'd like to introduce Mary Johnson,
Shut it down twice.
candidate for town council.
They won't be transparent.
That's what
Okay, no. I did have a thought though, because I think that definitely accessibility is an issue and communication is an issue. I've never had a Facebook, and I had to make a Facebook to know what's going on. I would love to not have one. I think in the community we need to improve our communication. So like for me, I'm like, hey, how can we do this? How can we communicate with folks that don't have internet access, or maybe have some impairments, or maybe they just can't. So I think that yes, there should be something as far as the live stream or recorded meetings. I know that current legality that's been investigated from the legal team. I know that the town is not required per se to be ADA compliant.
Correct.
But my concern is, why can't it be? Let's make it be. Because again, I think of so my background is all in healthcare. I'm so used to advocating for the patients, and I want to advocate for this town. Why can't we be ADA compliant? Why can't we just investigate that? Because the patients, the people that have hearing impairments or visual impairments, let's make it accessible for everybody if we're going to do it. So that's kind of my thoughts, kind of just to piggyback on your question there. But yeah, anyone have anything for me?
Yes.
Summer?
Hi, Mary. Thank you for doing this tonight, by the way. I know it could be a little awkward, first couple of public appearances, but we have talked previously. I know I reached out a few times trying to get a one-on-one, and they weren't really received. But we did talk, about a couple things, and I was just wondering. I wanted to touch base on a topic that we talked about with our budget, and I was asking, if you had any experience with like fiscal budgeting and how you would form a budget, what you would think about it, and I just wanted to see your definition. Your words were you would look at a budget compassionately, and I really just want to see if you can expand on what putting together a compassionate budget means.
Sure, absolutely, and to kind of follow up too, I know that there was that one committee that we were trying to get together, we just couldn't. So to answer your question about budget compassionately, so thoughtfulness. So speak on the rec director. Obviously, I volunteer in the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. I'd love to see a rec director committee because we have so many new families moving in, and there's nothing to do. In several years, I took my kids to other towns. So, to answer your question about budget compassionately, is like, okay, what are, based off the comp plan, I know there's upcoming plans, what are the priorities of this town, and can we make this work within the priorities of the town and within the budget? Certainly, no, I do not have budget experience. I have healthcare experience. I can take care of you. I can make you feel better. But my hope is to learn the ropes the first year. Let's get rolling. Let's see what's most important to the community. How do we increase accessibility? How do we increase communication? I like to think of it as, if there's anything you're wondering, hey, let me know. I'm out and about in the community. Come join. I volunteer at the food pantry. Let's volunteer together. So if that helps to kind of answer your questions, taking the needs of what the community recognizes as being most important, seeing if it works within the constraints of the budget. Certainly, I read, the upcoming, all the notes and the agendas as well for the town board meeting. So I've had some insight as to what's going on, and certainly in the Parks and Rec program, like we just recently discussed, budget items we'd love to see that would benefit our community. So, does that help answer?
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay. Is there anything I can take from there?
No, I just know that, board members and politicians, sometimes we are put between a rock and a hard place when it comes to our budgets. And, usually the more compassionate or social or program services are the first thing to be on the chopping block when we have to look at the bare bones of operations, especially, with a reval coming up. I just, don't want to set sights so high that, expectations are being set, and then, the reality is, we can't increase our budget by 20%,
Yeah.
so that's all.
I think there's room to grow for hey, is there, as you've applied for grants before, is there anything that we can do for grants? I know there's a couple out there that we've looked into from a Parks and Rec standpoint, that I think might help offset some things so we can afford our community members these capabilities.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further questions? Sir?
Yes, I was curious if from the limited amount you could do from the town standpoint, would you do anything you could to make sure the schools do not have to merge Marion with another town?
Yeah, because I would assume that would be more school board related.
It is, but
material.
You
can have opinions.
Would you advocate for it as the town or not?
So I think that's going to be a very difficult, challenging thing that would take a lot of forethought and insight to, because there's a multifaceted component. Because if we have some merging, you think of job loss. You think of, okay, kids are coming, or parents coming in to get their kids from school. Are they maybe stopping at the coffee shop getting a cup of coffee? How could that impact our businesses? But looking at merging, if that was something, right, it'd be a coordinated effort with the school board certainly, how would it impact the kids? So I think that's definitely a question that would require more comprehensive foresight and planning if that were to happen, if that were to come to fruition, and it would certainly have to be a community wide collection of data and how it would impact them.
Well, I just asked it because we kind of went through it last spring, so it might come up again.
Yeah, sure.
We've been talking about that for 4 years.
Next question. Ma'am?
If you get elected, what will be the first thing you do?
Honestly, I'd like to improve communication. Figure out what's a cost-effective way we can actually do that. It doesn't require social media. It doesn't require someone to get in a car, drive down to the park, read what's on the bulletin board. That's one of the priorities. The other thing is like visibility. How do we increase more traffic here and there, and not necessarily talking, cars per se. I'm talking more, hey, how to recognize that off this beaten path, there's a wonderful, beautiful town here with the kindest, most compassionate people. How do we engage them? We've got, again, so many people that are moving into our area. Let's engage this crowd. There's so many parents I talked to, they're like, oh, I didn't know Marion had this. Neither did I, until I started volunteering in the community and learning networking. So, communication visibility would probably be my top two.
Thank you.
Any further
I
questions,
got-
sir?
Yeah, just one more. As a retired law enforcement person myself, this summer there was a situation where one of the deputies that was here trying to do some community policing was, kind of run off the field. In that similar situation, how would you deal with something like that?
So I actually, I think there's always two sides, right, to everything that happens. And I always say, my sister was a police officer, my brother was a police officer. Nothing but respect for police officers. And we actually have something planned that's in the works. Maybe you can actually help out. So how would I deal with that? It's to prevent that, we need a policy in place. In our Parks and Rec Advisory Board, we've actually talked about a hierarchy, like what is the forefront, what's the number one top priority, right, for the safety, certainly. Safety of the kids, the family, and so forth, and so on. So we've actually, our group members has developed this hierarchy to put into place. Post the event, you look at what could have gone differently. It's so easy to quickly place blame on each other, but take a step back and say, all right, in this situation, this happened, how can we prevent this from moving forward? Now that being said, I'm actually working with several community members right now to plan a community soccer and kickball event where we invite first responders. So I have some calls into Sheriff Milby as well too, so might need your help.
I'm willing to help with that.
Perfect, yeah. The goal is actually to provide a free meal as well too, so.
So if you'd like to follow up with her on this, would you please just drop maybe your name, number, and email?
We'll do that.
Any further questions? Going once?
I have one more. I'm so
Then would you please address her
One more.
after the meeting?
Well, it's kind of I'm not even sure it's for her. I was just wondering, we've had quite a few community events with the fire company. We've had community events here at the park. Will that continue? And, we used to have big harvest days. We used to have all kinds of little events that everybody would get together for the town. I just wondered, we've started bringing that back. Will that continue?
I would love that to be the goal. We're actually partnering with Marion Events Organization for this, and maybe if this is something super successful, hey, can we do this every year?
Yeah.
A community dinner night, have a hot dog with a police officer, EMS, fire department, whatever. It's been nice to see that
Which EMS department?
Have spoken to us, they're very vested. So maybe this is something we can turn into an annual thing, but this is our way of taking something negative that happened, let's turn it into a positive, and let's grow, let's flourish, let's not dwell, let's move on and grow together. And actually our goal is actually to invite deputies with us too, so.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Just to piggyback on that, I'm sorry. We are having Harvest in the Hamlet on October 4th here in town. And that is a collaboration with all groups. There are businesses, there are our Marion Events Organization, there are other programs that are all involved in working together for that event. So we definitely want to keep that going.
And they can use help if anybody wants to volunteer, because that's what it comes down to, right? We all miss those things, but we also have to be engaged as a community and give up a few minutes here, a few minutes there. Everybody brings something unique to the table, so anything you can do to help would be great.
I volunteer for the fire company, actually.
I think we got two more candidates and it's starting
Yeah, I
to
was
get a
just
little
gonna
dark.
say, at this point, Heidi LeBen is your current town clerk and candidate. Any questions for Heidi? Any questions for Heidi? Anybody need a copy of their marriage certificate? Birth certificate?
I have a comment.
Ma'am,
I'm George again. I've moved back to Marion, came here in 1954, and returned here, and I find that Heidi is one of the most wonderful town clerks. I think Evelyn Frank is a good one. Heidi always answers a question, she's welcoming, she makes me feel that I'm not a pain. And she always has an answer, and I just want people to know she's great. If you don't know her, get to know her.
I come from a long line of great town clerks, so previous to being Mr. Smith, right? Marjorie Hake was in there as well. So I appreciate you all, and I know they did it.
Any further questions, comments for Heidi?
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you. And the one candidate that you want to vote for, but you never want to see in his professional is Judge Bonifay. Your Honor.
Yes.
Hi, Joe. Judge, so, you know, Marion being a small town, we know the reality is the revenues from court fees, especially now with the New York State, you know, bail reform, you don't get many opportunities to really generate any revenue for small towns based off tickets and such and fees. We have two town justices at the moment. That is by local law. However, we do have a mechanism where we could offer a voter referendum to reduce it to one. You know, I know you can't offer an official opinion on that. Or a private one. But I just wanted to let the people know that, like, you know, are you concerned with what you see, the trends in local court in terms of like fees and opportunities to assess those fees in relation to the New York State bail reform and how they're not suspending licenses anymore and, you know, for violations and things like that? Like, do you feel like that's going to eventually like bankrupt local courts and justices?
Well, I can tell you that in the 36 years that I've been doing this, the question of the cost of the town court versus any local court versus revenue. Courts are never intended to be revenue producing instruments.
Right.
I mean, look at the county. There's 3 judges, well, no courts are. I did some research once a few years ago, and there was only one court in the state of New York that brought in more revenue than the cost of running the court. I think that was the town of Greenbush, I think is outside of Albany. That's one out of how many statewide? There's 15 towns in Wayne County times 62 counties. One. So a lot of what we are required to do has been increased. The load has been shifted from state courts to town, or the city and county courts to the local courts, town and village courts. When I started this, we had a fairly limited jurisdiction. It's been expanded. We are hearing more cases than we have had to do in the past. So our jobs have expanded, our requirements have expanded. But as far as finances, the state likes to push that down on the locals. Whoops, that's politics. Because it makes if you look at what city court in Rochester, county court in Monroe, county court in Wayne County, that's all part of the state court system. Their budgets are, we're paying for them, we pay our taxes. But you don't feel it because it's not broken out as a line item. The local courts, town and village courts, town and village is paying. You can see what the expenditures are.
That makes sense.
From a revenue standpoint, that's never been a issue for the courts, but it's been asked and
okay. Yeah, thank you, Judge.
Anything else? Yes.
I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you for your years of service to Marion.
Yes.
Thank you. I fell from the big bustling metropolis of Newark.
And we don't blame you for moving out of it.
But I'm happy out here. And I am. I've been here since 1972. I've raised my family here. My children and my grandchildren have gone to school here. This town has supported my law practice for 45 years. And just fairly recently, I found just how wonderful the people in this town are. And why I do this, why every local judge does this, is to give back to say thank you, to give some service back to the town. And I would appreciate your vote in November. Thank you.
Are there any further questions for Judge Bonifay? Okay. So, thank you everyone for attending tonight. There's just one last thing that as a politician I'd like to throw in. I gave a quick head count. I think I'm coming up with about 32 people. So, I am quite sure the members of the town board from supervisor to town clerk would love to see about 32 people asking questions and involving themselves with town board. And for the several questions there were about how do you feel about including everybody politically, it is the opinion of the county committee that as of 9:01 p.m. election night, politics ends, government begins. So please continue taking interest in your local government. You have a great town. You have a great town to live in. So thank you very much, and for anybody who would like to, I think I can speak for all of the candidates, please feel free to reach out to them individually if you have any other questions. Have a good night, drive safe, walk safe, and be safe. And don't forget to vote.
Mary Ann, for everything she's done.